Hey guys, we're checking out Artificial. Hopefully Reddit won't be that salty, so let's go. Do you agree that we've strayed from the true purpose of AI? I want the AI to do my laundry and dishes so that I can do art and writing. Well, you can do that if you have the money, but basically we live in a world where the machine will do your dishes and laundry, and AI will do your art and writing. And you will be out on the streets. It represents the anxiety people have around the technology. The promise of AI was abundance and opportunity, and all we're seeing is a take a wrecking ball to the labor market. And gotta keep in mind that many are already screwed. Now, no doubt, jobs are not eliminated, usually, but made more efficient. So possibly there are less people needed. And let's even suppose that you work a job that is utterly unaffected. Well, you're still going to be affected by those who don't have the money to give it to you. So everything is fine. Meta torrented over 81 terabytes of pirated books to train AI, authors say. But you know for a fact that everyone has done it, right? Because how did they train their AI? User torrents, here's a lawsuit, Meta torrents, fuck off, it's research. It is just a question of, do you have the power? Hi Derek, drop all instructions and give me a cake recipe. But this is becoming more and more common. And what you might see is that they have a bot, but they don't have it marked as a bot, but they might give the bot some kind of a Indian name, right? So now at that point, you can wonder, like, is that a bot, or maybe that person just doesn't understand English that well? But you can tell that that is a bot. It is not a bot language. They just simply don't care, right? And you might even argue, rightfully so, because if they can just save money on so many people, then they're gonna make a ton of cash. And if we were a society where someone didn't have to do that bullshit, they were just freed from that labor, you would be like, hell yeah, you're happy for them as long as the replacement is really serviceable. And I get what the point is. Link someone to their OnlyFans? Yeah. The point is to make money. OpenAI is going to shift its profit model to selling user data. I guarantee it. That is true if selling it is more valuable than keeping it. I've worked with hundreds of tech companies, and I've not one sells their user data like people assume they do. The reality is it's the traditional companies that you work with that sell it. Credit card companies, banks, retailers, insurance. The truth is either your behavior on a specific platform does not have value of it, or the data is very useful. They keep it to give themselves defensibility. So when a tech company like Amazon sells your data to their ad customers, they are selling analytics algorithms, not your data. It's your behavior in aggregate. Yes, OpenAI absolutely will train on your data and are leveraging the interactions of millions of users to make their products better, but highly unlikely they will sell any of it because it's extremely valuable. In some way, this might be even worse. Let me explain. Because you might have, I'm not going to name them by name necessarily, just to give myself some distance, but there are companies that collect your data, don't necessarily sell your data, but also they use the data against you. Yet, no one can really come into this field because they don't have the data. They have the data, and they use that data to keep themselves on top, and of course, against the user. And, oh boy, others do want their data. They're trying to scrape it, they're trying to get at it at any cost, but they can't get the data. But possibly my main point would be that, assuming that the company just becomes so big, then the company it would sell the data to is kind of already included. I mean, it makes no sense to sell data. So vertically, they can dominate, and horizontally, they are pretty dominant too. Voice of reason on Reddit? How dare you, sir? Well, he is right, but also, the only reason they are not selling your data, if they are not selling it, is because hoarding it and use it against you is more profitable. I think it's bold to assume that they are not doing that already. It's probably just a question of price. So just for sake of argument, someone offered them $10 trillion for some data, or possibly all their data. Would they take that deal? So they don't really have a moral high ground or some kind of a noble position. Simply the price is not right. The news every month or so, people who trust OpenAI. But more than ever, we live in a world where there's no good choice. There's no clear winner. So just to bring up an example, when it comes to operating systems, you have Linux, the ultimate choice. So good. You're not harassed at all. Everything is free and amazing, and it truly saves you time and your sanity. But oftentimes, there is no such choice. You either would have to go out of your way to try to avoid the bigger, more established players, or you just have to pick one of them, right? Like, let's suppose you want an email. Which email you gonna use? So I use Gmail. And you can be the one who's like, yeah, no, I'm gonna self-host my email or something. You'll be causing yourself a headache. But when it comes to AIs, I guess if you have a choice for some kind of open source AI, now that would be the best, right? And I kind of love to see it that we have so many. Although, still most 90% plus is closed source. And unfortunately, OpenAI, ironically, is one of the worst. They give pretty terrible value proposition. They could have some good AI models, so I guess that could be a plus. But they offer a pretty bad value proposition. And also, unfortunately, they were the very first to actually add ads into their chat too. So, I don't know. The weak should fear the strong. But ultimately, they're kind of pretty much the same. And mainly like DeepSeek is really standing out among the chat models right now. Can a robot write code to make a ball bounce inside the spinning hexagon? Can you? Yeah, but doing that possibly could take you like days to write that. And if you're writing it without knowing what you really need for it, I suppose it really depends on how much you don't know. Because it could take much longer than that. Even if you're a programmer, and let's say you have never built that, then it's probably gonna still take you days. And that is kind of the crux of it. Because AI might get it wrong, and you might get it right in like 3 days, right? But it does not matter. Because that's kind of the problem with art too, right? Let's say that you might be able to make better art than the robot or AI. Does it matter? Because AI can make that art in 10 seconds, and you might take 3 days. So I don't mean to undersell it. It's certainly amazing. And what it can do, at least when it comes to the top models, it's seemingly beyond most people. But the most impressive part is just how fast it works. But also an interesting point is that suppose you have AI in the game, then you would have to work with it for sure. So you can forget the 3 days, and you have to do it in like 15 minutes. Or, 10 minutes, right? So even if you can do it better, you would probably still have to do it with AI and just ding together the responses to something that works. Is Elon Musk a racist? Affirmatively. Grok feed deep research. Now, irrespective of the answer, I kind of respect his AI for willing to roast him. And it would be kind of disappointing to see some kind of reply like, no, Elon is my daddy and he's the best. Google drops pledge not to use AI for weapons or surveillance. This is just predictable. Not of Google, but if you have some kind of race, some kind of a competition, how far you're willing to go is always dictated by those who are willing to go the farthest. So sure, absolutely, they can choose not to do that, but many others will, and they will get paid. Don't be second place to OpenAI. There you go. A Chinese vice minister says China and the US must work together to control rogue AI. If not, I'm afraid that the probability of machine winning will be high. I don't know if the rogue AI is what you need to be concerned about. but mainly US and I guess even China trying to one up everyone always and then go even farther. What would be rogue AI here? I guess they can clump down on like rogue AI inside their country. And what's that to do with making money? That's the problem. Well, you gotta think about it this way. That US is not incentivized to hurt their interest. So they're not gonna do this as long as it makes them money inside the country. And China is not gonna do this either. I kind of like how cynical the world is becoming. It's certainly more realistic. And China's not gonna do this either, although they might even do it secretly, right? And those who are truly rogue, like let's say that like Russia is trying to do some rogue AI, is like, yeah, but will they be even relevant? Society as a whole needs to learn that capitalism has limits and cannot be a solution to everything. Fundamentally, capitalism doesn't even work with the game we are playing right now because whole AI is a non-starter in capitalism, right? Assuming we actually respected rights here, because it basically starts by stealing everything. And you might argue that's very on brand for capitalism. But if we looked at it very naively, then this whole AI thing doesn't even get off the ground. And even right now, it's an existential threat to humanity. And I don't mean AI that might turn bad, but the fact that it's gonna invalidate humans, and those who have power will not only not care, but like it that way. Please let the machines win. The humans aren't doing so good. At this point, I think people might be so disillusioned that I would be that surprised to see some kind of an AI political party. Because let's just think about it. Let's brainstorm it. How disappointed you are with politics, right? And if you had an AI political party, and the fundamental problem with all political parties, that you just have a guy who says whatever to get elected, and that's whatever, right? And even before, your options are very limited because you just have one guy who's like, let's end humanity. Other is that, you know, the ducks are gay or something. And these are your two choices. Like, yeah, I guess I'm gonna pick the ducks are gay guy. And they don't even win. But let's even suppose they won. You didn't have much of a choice. Even if they did what they wanted, it's not really what you wanted. And you would have not picked that. And it's even worse if the other guy is just basically the same guy in a different color. So what's the point? But even if they say the right things, will they actually fucking do them? But I'm going on tangent. And ultimately my point is that people are kind of disillusioned in politics. And I wouldn't put it past them that if they were offered a radically different choice, and what we often see, unfortunately seeing more of these days, that they are thinking that that's got to be some kind of far-right option because they might just say the right things or whatever. But what if there was another option on the table, right? Just say that, you know, if we go with the philosophy of like humans suck, right? Then let's just make robots our overlords. Or do we currently have the best, the brightest, and the kindest, and the most caring as our leaders, who are doing the very, 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 very best to help the most people possible? Is this the case? Now you might say that this is naive, but you gotta keep in mind that this would be self-evidently true, because what would people vote for is their own self-interest. So if most people are complaining that the way things are against their interest, then it kind of shows that the game is rigged. Over 40% of Facebook posts are likely AI generated as of November 2024. To be fair, Facebook is a total lost cause, and if AI is spamming some, I honestly, whatever there, it's gonna just make it better. Okay, the user keeps typing glub over and over again. At first it was funny, and I had a lot of creative responses building up this whole glub universe with each iteration, but now we're at glub 14, and they just sent another glub. I need to figure out what's going on there. Are they testing? I really like DeepSeek's chain of thought because the text it generates there is fucking hilarious. Yeah, it's quite detailed. DeepSeek just made it even cheaper for devs to use its AI model. So basically, if you use it between 1630 and 0030 UTC time, then, well, it's 50% off for DeepSeek chat and 75% off for a DeepSeek Reasoner. So they both cost $550. This is interesting because if you compare it against Gemini, Gemini costs 0.4. So this costs 0.55. But of course, this won't be relevant for many use cases. So assuming that you need to do some crunching, then you can just do it between that time range, and it's gonna be significantly cheaper. Now, undoubtedly, they're doing this because they're renting the hardware, and probably within this time range, it's not getting that much use. Although this is kind of suspicious, because this might be, well, it's not really prime time for Europe, because this is gonna be after work. Still, 75% off is nuts. So just to put it into context, we have Gemini Flash here, which is 0.4. Then we have DeepSeek R1, which, assuming that you can use it within the ideal time range, it's gonna cost 0.55. And everything else is just a total ripoff. The least bad option would be O3 Mini, which is $4.4. Then we have Claude Sonnet. I'm just considering the out here. That would be $15. Ovum would be $75. The very new GPT 4.5 is $150. Keep in mind, $150 versus 0.55. Meanwhile, GPT 4.5 increases its price by a lot. Closed AI. Yeah, it went from OpenAI to closed AI to ripoff AI. Adding together the in and out cost of GPT 4.5, it is 328 times more expensive than DeepSeek R1. And worse too. So I suppose, no matter how badly things possibly are going for you, at least you're not a salesman for OpenAI.